Lizzie, I need a favor, Emily said. I want you to pretend to be me for a few days. Elizabeth's eyes widened. What? Why? I want to visit my ex-boyfriend, Jack, Emily explained. I need closure. Elizabeth's expression turned stern. No way, Emily. That's crazy. How could you think of something like that? This is just few weeks after your wedding, and you want to take such risk? Elizabeth said softly. Please, Lizzie, Emily begged. Alex won't suspect anything. You look just like me. We are identical twins, and you know that. Elizabeth shook her head. I won't deceive Alex. He's a good man, Emily persisted. Just for a few days. I'll be back before anyone notices, Elizabeth refused. What if Alex finds out? What if he leaves you? Emily's face fell, but Elizabeth's resolve didn't waver. I won't risk your marriage, Elizabeth said firmly. You need to think about Alex's feelings, Emily sighed, realizing her sister was right. Emily wouldn't give up. For days, she begged Elizabeth to pretend to be her, insisting it was just for a few days, and no one would ever find out. Elizabeth repeatedly refused, citing the risks and potential consequences. It's a deadly act, Emily, Elizabeth warned. What if Alex discovers? Our relationship will crumble, but Emily persisted, wearing down Elizabeth's resolve. She promised to return immediately if anything went wrong and swore Alex would never suspect. Elizabeth's resistance began to wane, and Emily sensed victory within reach. One evening, as they sat together in Elizabeth's cozy apartment, Emily made a heartfelt plea. Lizzie, please. I'll never ask for anything again. Just this once, help me. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears as she gazed at her twin sister. She saw the desperation and longing in Emily's eyes, and knew she couldn't refuse any more. Fine, Elizabeth relented, her voice barely above a whisper. But promise me you'll return in 3 days. And be careful. Emily's face lit up with triumph, and she hugged Elizabeth tightly. Thank you, Lizzie. I owe you forever. As they began making plans, Elizabeth's anxiety resurfaced. What if Alex discovered? What if Emily didn't return on time? But Emily reassured her, trust me, Lizzie. Everything will be fine. Little did they know, their lives were about to take a dramatic turn. Emily and Elizabeth meticulously planned the switch, ensuring every detail was perfect. We need to synchronize our movements, Emily instructed. Alex mustn't suspect anything, Elizabeth nodded, studying Emily's daily routine. Remember, Lizzie, Alex likes his coffee black, and he hates it when I wear my hair in a ponytail, Elizabeth chuckled. Got it. They exchanged clothes, makeup, and accessories, transforming Elizabeth into Emily's identical duplicate. The day of the switch arrived. Emily left for her secret visit, while Elizabeth took her place at Alex's home. As Elizabeth settled into Emily's life, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She had never pretended to be her sister before. Alex walked into the kitchen, smiling at Elizabeth, who pretends to be Emily. Hey, beautiful. Morning coffee? Elizabeth's heart skipped a beat. She forced a smile, trying to mimic Emily's tone. Of course, darling. The day passed smoothly, with Elizabeth adapting to Emily's role. She cooked Alex's favorite dinner and engaged in conversation, careful not to raise suspicion, but as night fell, Elizabeth began to feel uneasy. She couldn't shake off the feeling that she was living a lie. Meanwhile, Emily arrived at Jack's doorstep, her heart racing with happiness. Emily stood outside Jack's doorstep. She took a deep breath and knocked. Jack opened the door, his eyes widening in surprise. Emily! Wow, you honored my invitation. Thanks, my darling, I missed you so much, Alex said as he hugged Emily tightly. Emily smiled, feeling a mix of emotions. Jack's face lit up with a warm smile. Come in, come in. It's great to see you, Emily entered, taking in the familiar surroundings. Jack's apartment looked the same, cozy, with memories of their time together. Can I get you something to drink? Jack offered. Emily nodded. Just water, thanks. As Jack handed her a glass, their fingers touched, sparking a flutter in Emily's chest. They sat on the couch, catching up on lost time. Jack shared stories about his new job, and Emily laughed at his jokes. The tension between them dissipated, replaced by a comfortable familiarity. As evening fell, Jack suggested dinner at his favorite Italian restaurant. Over pasta and wine, they reminisced about their time together. Remember that beach trip? Jack asked, his eyes sparkling. Emily giggled. How could I forget? Their conversation flowed effortlessly, like no time had passed. After dinner, Jack walked Emily back to his apartment. Want to watch a movie? He asked, his eyes locked on hers. Emily nodded, feeling a sense of belonging. As they snuggled on the couch, Emily realized she still had feelings for Jack. But what about Alex? And Elizabeth, pretending to be her, guilt crept in, but Emily pushed it aside, wanting to savor this moment. The movie ended, and Jack leaned in, his lips brushing against Emily's. Together they romantically moved into his bedroom and make love together. Meanwhile, Elizabeth struggled to connect with Alex, her twin sister's husband. At dinner, Alex asked about her day, but Elizabeth's responses felt forced. Everything's fine, dear, Elizabeth replied, trying to mimic Emily's tone. Alex raised an eyebrow. You seem distant. Elizabeth's heart skipped a beat. Had she blown her cover? Just tired, Elizabeth said quickly. Alex nodded, but his eyes lingered, sensing something amiss. Later, as they watched TV together, Alex placed a hand on Elizabeth's knee. You're quiet tonight, Alex observed. Elizabeth forced a smile. Just relaxing. Alex's gaze narrowed. Is everything okay? You're not yourself, Elizabeth's anxiety spiked. She wasn't Emily, she couldn't replicate her sister's mannerisms and nuances. Maybe I'm just preoccupied, Elizabeth ventured. Alex leaned in, his voice soft. What's bothering you? Tell me. Elizabeth's eyes darted around the room, desperate for an escape. I think I'm just stressed, Elizabeth stammered. Alex's expression softened. I'm here for you. As the night wore on, Alex couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. He recalled their conversations, how Emily seemed different. Was she unhappy? Was he failing her? Alex resolved to make things right. Hey, sweetie, Alex said, using her nickname. Elizabeth's heart skipped a beat. Yes? Elizabeth replied cautiously. I love you, Alex said sincerely. Whatever's bothering you, we'll face it together, Elizabeth's guilt surged. Elizabeth sat beside Alex in the living room, pretending to watch TV. But her mind wandered. As Alex laughed at a comedy show, Elizabeth's anxiety grew. She couldn't shake off the feeling that Alex was scrutinizing her. Excuse me, Elizabeth said abruptly, standing up. Alex looked concerned. Everything okay? Elizabeth forced a smile. Just need to freshen up. In the bedroom, Elizabeth shut the door and exhaled deeply. What am I doing? She whispered to herself. What if Alex finds out? What if he hates me for pretending to be Emily? Elizabeth paced around the room, her thoughts racing. What if something happens between us? What if Emily never returns? Elizabeth's phone beckoned. She needed to talk to Emily. She dialed her sister's number, her heart pounding. Emily, it's me, Elizabeth said quietly. Hey, Lizzie. How's it going? Emily replied cheerfully. Elizabeth hesitated. It's complicated. What's wrong? Emily's tone turned serious. Alex is being really sweet, but I feel guilty, Elizabeth confessed. Try to relax, Emily advised. Just a few more days, Elizabeth sighed. What if he discovers the truth? Emily reassured her. He won't. You're doing great, Elizabeth nodded, even though Emily couldn't see her. I miss you, Elizabeth said softly. I miss you too, Emily replied. But I need this closure, Elizabeth understood. Be careful. I will, Emily promised. Love you too, Elizabeth replied. As they hung up, Elizabeth felt a mix of emotions, relief, guilt, and uncertainty. Emily's days-long visit to Jack's house came to an end. As she packed her bags, Jack's expression turned somber. I'll miss you, Jack said, his voice laced with emotion. Emily smiled wistfully. I'll miss you too. Jack walked Emily out of the apartment, hand in hand. Let's take a stroll to the park, Jack suggested. Emily agreed, enjoying the crisp morning air. As they strolled, Jack led Emily to a secluded spot. A surprise, Jack whispered, guiding her toward a beautifully crafted box. Emily's eyes widened as she opened the box, revealing a stunning necklace. Beautiful, Emily breathed. Jack smiled, fastening the necklace around her neck. Suddenly, Emily's phone buzzed. Elizabeth's name flashed on the screen. Hey, Lizzie, Emily answered. Emily, I'm worried, Elizabeth said urgently. I'm no longer comfortable in this game, Elizabeth said fearfully. Emily reassured her. I'm on my way home. Everything will be fine. As Emily hung up, Jack's eyes sparkled. I love you, Emily, Jack declared. Emily's heart fluttered. I care about you, Jack. Jack's face fell, but he smiled. I know you're returning to Alex, your husband, Jack said. But know this, I'll always love you. Emily's eyes misted. As they shared a bittersweet goodbye, Emily didn't notice the ominous clouds gathering. The drive home began uneventfully, but fate had other plans. A sharp turn, screeching tires, and shattering glass. Emily's world went dark. There was an accident. The accident scene was chaotic. Paramedics rushed to the wreckage. Madam, a voice shouted, but Emily lay motionless. The necklace Jack gave her glinted in the sunlight. Elizabeth's frantic calls went unanswered. Few hours later, Elizabeth's phone rang, shrill in the silence. Hello? Elizabeth answered, Madam, I'm Officer James. I have unfortunate news. Elizabeth's heart sank. The owner of this phone was involved in a fatal accident. Elizabeth's world crumbled. What? No. Oh God. Elizabeth screamed. Alex rushed into the room, concern etched on his face. What's wrong? Alex asked, wrapping his arms around Elizabeth, but Elizabeth couldn't speak, overcome with grief. Who was that? Alex asked gently. Elizabeth handed him the phone, her eyes streaming tears. Alex listened, his expression somber. Officer James explained the accident details. Alex's grip on Elizabeth tightened. God has his reasons. We must accept, but Alex didn't know he was consoling Elizabeth, not Emily. The switch remained a secret. Elizabeth's sobs intensified, her heart shattered. Alex held her close, whispering reassurances. I'm here for you. We'll get through this. Elizabeth's mind reeled. How could this happen? Her twin, her best friend, gone. As Alex continued to console her, Elizabeth realized, he thinks I'm Emily. What do I do now? Elizabeth sat alone in the dimly lit living room, surrounded by memories of her sister, mumbling to herself, how did I get into this mess? Losing Emily, my best friend, my twin, Elizabeth's voice cracked. And now, I'm stuck in her marriage, living a lie. She paced around the room, confusion etching her face. How can I keep this up? Pretending to be Emily for the rest of my life, Elizabeth's thoughts swirled. What about Alex? He thinks I'm his wife. What if he finds out? She stopped in front of the mirror, gazing at her reflection. Who am I now? Emily or Elizabeth? Tears streamed down her face. I miss her so much. My sister, my partner in crime. Elizabeth collapsed onto the couch. Overwhelmed, how do I move forward? Do I continue the charade or reveal the truth? The weight of her decision pressed down on her. What about the family? They'll be devastated. Elizabeth's head spun. She couldn't bear the thought of facing Alex, pretending to be his wife, but she couldn't abandon him either. As night fell, Elizabeth remained lost, unsure of her next step. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Alex entered, concern etched on his face. "Hey, are you okay?" "You've been quiet lately." Elizabeth forced a weak smile. "I'm just grieving." Alex sat beside her, taking her hand. "We'll get through this together." Elizabeth's guilt surged. The day of Emily's burial arrived, and the family gathered to bid their final farewells. Elizabeth stood beside Alex, her eyes brimming with tears. As the eulogies began, Elizabeth's sobs intensified. Friends and family consoled her, unaware of the double grief she carried. They thought she was only mourning her sister, but Elizabeth's heart ached with guilt and deception. How could she face them, living a lie? As the coffin lowered into the ground, Elizabeth's cries grew uncontrollable. Alex wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "It's okay, Emily. Let her go," he whispered, but Elizabeth knew she wasn't Emily. She was living in her sister's shoes, trapped in a web of deceit. The burial ceremony concluded, and the mourners began to disperse. Elizabeth's mind reeled with the weight of her secrets. How long could she maintain this charade? As they returned home, Alex's family and friends offered condolences. Elizabeth forced smiles and thank yous, her heart heavy. In the evening, as the house emptied, Elizabeth collapsed onto the couch, exhausted and emotionally drained. Alex sat beside her, gently stroking her hair. "You're strong, Emily. You'll get through this." Elizabeth's eyes welled up anew. If only he knew. The days passed, and Elizabeth struggled to find a balance, grieving her sister while living a lie. She couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped. One misstep could expose her truth. 3 years passed since Emily's burial. Elizabeth, still pretending to be Emily, had built a life with Alex. Their daughter, Sarah, was now 2 years old, and Elizabeth had just given birth to twin boys, Jack and Michael. As she held the babies close, Elizabeth's heart swelled with joy and guilt. How could she reveal the truth now? Alex beamed with pride, unaware of the deception. "We're blessed, Emily," Alex whispered, kissing her forehead. Elizabeth's conscience nagged her. Was this the right time to confess? As she gazed at her children, Elizabeth knew she couldn't keep the secret forever. But how would Alex react? Would he forgive her or leave her? The thought of losing him and the children terrified her. One evening, as Alex helped with the babies, Elizabeth broached the subject. "Alex, can we talk?" Elizabeth asked nervously. "Of course, Emily. What's on your mind?" Alex replied. Elizabeth hesitated, unsure how to begin. "About us, our marriage, my past." Elizabeth stammered. Alex's expression turned curious. "What is it, Emily?" Alex pressed. Elizabeth took a deep breath, steeling herself, but before she could speak, Sarah interrupted. Mommy, look at the babies." Sarah exclaimed. The moment was lost. The next day, Elizabeth woke up with a sense of resolve. Today was the day she would reveal the truth to Alex. She took a deep breath, her heart racing, and approached Alex in the sitting room. "Alex, we need to talk," Elizabeth said firmly. Alex looked up from his coffee, curious. "What's going on?" Alex asked. Elizabeth's words spilled out in a rush. "Alex, I'm not Emily. I'm Elizabeth, her twin sister." Alex's expression changed from confusion to shock. "We switched lives before Emily's death. She was with Jack, her ex-boyfriend, when she had accident on way coming back and she died." Alex's face turned red with anger, but he bit back his rage. "How could you two deceive me?" Alex hissed, his voice low. Elizabeth stood tall, prepared for his wrath. "I know it was wrong, but I was desperate to keep her memory alive." Alex paced around the room, processing the revelation. "You're telling me my real wife was actually your sister, and you Elizabeth, the mother of my children?" Elizabeth nodded, tears streaming down her face. "And I've been living a lie, pretending to be her." Alex stopped pacing and faced Elizabeth. "Why now?" Why reveal the truth after all these years? Elizabeth's voice cracked. I couldn't keep the secret anymore. I wanted to be honest, to free myself from the guilt. Alex's expression softened slightly. I need time to process this, Alex said finally. Elizabeth nodded, understanding. I'll give you space, Elizabeth said, tears still falling. As Alex walked away, Elizabeth wondered if she'd lost him forever. Days passed, and Alex grappled with the truth. He felt betrayed, yet understood Elizabeth's motivations. One evening, Alex returned home, his expression softer. Elizabeth, Alex said gently, using her real name for the first time. Elizabeth looked up, hopeful. I've thought a lot about everything, Alex began. I'm angry, but I also understand why you did it. Elizabeth's eyes welled up with tears. You were trying to protect your sister's memory and our family. Alex took a deep breath. I forgive you, Elizabeth, Elizabeth sobbed, relief washing over her. Thank you, Alex, Elizabeth whispered. Alex approached her, opening his arms. I want us to move forward, together. Elizabeth hesitated, then stepped into his embrace. I love you, Alex, Elizabeth said, her voice trembling. I love you too, Elizabeth, Alex replied. Their children, Sarah, Jack, and Michael, sensed the tension lifting. As they hugged, Alex whispered, we'll make this work. We'll build a new life, together. Elizabeth smiled, feeling a weight lift. They began anew, rebuilding their relationship on honesty. Alex learned to love Elizabeth for who she was. Elizabeth found solace in Alex's forgiveness. Their family flourished, years passed, and the truth remained a secret. Only Alex and Elizabeth knew. Their love story became one of forgiveness and redemption.